The Professional Legacy, Turning Expertise into Narrative Stories. By TWAGAA, together we are great, amazing, and awesome.
So imagine you're driving your car across one of those massive, just sprawling suspension bridges.
Oh,
You
sure.
know the ones.
What?
With the steel cables as thick as tree trunks towering above you, and like thousands of tons of concrete holding you up high over the water.
Yeah, terrifying if you think about it too much.
Right. But you make that drive, maybe you're sipping your coffee, listening to the radio, and you never actually look down at the asphalt and think, I wonder what the lead engineer's absolute worst Tuesday was like during this build.
No, of course not. We're entirely conditioned to only see the finalized result.
Yeah.
You expect the bridge to hold your car, and because it does, the human struggle, the sleepless nights, the agonizing decisions it took to actually build the thing,
Yeah.
all of that just becomes completely invisible to you.
It's so clean and finished on the surface, but like beneath that, there is an entire hidden world of human drama baked right into the concrete. And that brings us to a really fascinating paradox that we are exploring in our deep dive today. So welcome back to The Learner. We are so glad you're here with us.
Yes, welcome.
Today we are looking at an essay titled The Professional Legacy, Turning Expertise into Narrative Stories, and a profile on this Mumbai-based publishing house called TWAGAA International.
Right, which is doing some really cool stuff in this space.
Totally. Because our mission today is to figure out why the most highly trained professionals among us, the ones living the most intense, high-stakes dramas every single day, are almost always the least likely people to share their stories. We want to see how the ordinary, mundane, daily grind can actually become a lasting legacy. So, okay, let's unpack this.
I love that. Let's do it.
Where do we even start? Like, why are these stories hidden in the first place?
Well, the first hurdle is understanding the expertise trap.
Hmm.
Think about the nature of professional training, whether it's medical school, law school, or, a rigorous engineering program like your bridge builder. The whole curriculum is designed to reward precision, brevity, and total technical mastery. You are trained to solve problems efficiently.
Get in, fix it, get out.
Exactly. You are actively discouraged from narrating those problems or dwelling on the emotional weight of them.
Which, I mean, makes sense in the moment, right? You don't want a surgeon writing a poem in their head while they're operating on you.
Please no.
But over time, as that professional expertise really deepens, the human story behind the work just sort of evaporates. It's like a very specific kind of invisibility settles over the professional.
Yeah, it devolves. To an engineer, a bridge eventually devolves into nothing more than like a stress load calculation on a blueprint.
Yeah.
To a surgeon holding human life in their hands, it just becomes a Tuesday at the office.
Wow. It actually reminds me of incredibly complex software code.
Oh, how so?
Well, you can have this beautifully written, massive piece of software that executes amazing functions, right? But if the original developer didn't leave a README file...
Oh, the documentation?
Yeah, exactly. If they didn't write any notes explaining the logic behind their choices or like what catastrophic bugs they had to squash to get the program to run, the next developer who opens that code is totally lost.
They have no idea what they're looking at.
Right. They see the function, but they are blind to the logic. So my question is, does rigorous professional training actively erase the human element of the job?
I mean, it definitely suppresses it. And they build this armor out of necessity.
Armor.
Yeah, to survive the relentless, high-stakes nature of their work, they have to manufacture psychological distance. Think about a trauma surgeon. They cannot absorb the emotional devastation of every single family that comes through those ER doors.
Oh, they break.
They would simply collapse under the weight of it. So the brain essentially rewires itself to view a human crisis as like a mechanical puzzle that needs fixing.
That is so wild, but it makes total sense.
But the danger of this expertise trap becomes critical at the end of a career. Expertise without narrative is completely invisible.
It just vanishes.
Exactly. When these professionals retire, all that accumulated knowledge, the hard-won insights, the mistakes that literally cost them sleep, all those quiet moments of triumph just disappear forever.
Man.
And in an era where we constantly complain about information overload,
Oh, yeah, too much data everywhere.
Right. But the real danger isn't that we have too much data. It's that we are losing the human context that makes the data meaningful.
We're losing the actual wisdom.
Precisely.
Okay, so if we manage to crack through that professional armor, right, if we bypass this expertise trap and look at the raw experience, what do these hidden stories actually look like? Because the source material talks about specific archetypes of hidden drama.
Yeah, there are a few really powerful ones that play out every day. Let's look at the patient story first. Doctors carry narratives that, no fiction writer could ever invent.
Truth is stranger than fiction.
Always. And these aren't clinical case studies about a disease pathology. We're talking about specific, localized moments where a patient completely shatters a doctor's understanding of medicine or forces them to, rewrite their foundational assumptions about human resilience.
And when those stories are told, obviously with care and anonymity, they totally humanize the healthcare system.
Oh, completely.
Think about the fear of sitting in a sterile waiting room, just staring at a ticking clock, waiting for test results. When a patient reads about the internal, emotional landscape of a physician, it completely changes how the public interacts with the medical field.
Because the doctor goes from being this infallible, intimidating authority figure to just a human being trying their absolute best to navigate uncertainty.
Exactly. And then, what was the next one? The courtroom story.
Yes, the courtroom story. Because lawyers witness human drama in its most concentrated, volatile form.
And not the flashy TV stuff, right?
No, not the I object courtroom trauma. It's the inheritance disputes that permanently sever family bloodlines. It's the agonizing tension of a custody battle.
Just heavy, heavy stuff.
Yeah, they are essentially parables about fairness. They show us what it actually costs a person to fight for a deeply held belief. And that provides a fundamentally different understanding of the justice system than, reading a dry legal brief.
Yeah, brief doesn't tell you how someone's hands were shaking under the table.
Exactly.
And then there's the builder's story, which connects right back to our bridge analogy.
Right, engineers and architects. They carry this deep satisfaction of making things that outlast them. But far more critically, they carry the heavy lessons of the things that did not go as planned.
The failures.
The miscalculations, the shifting soil, the structural weaknesses that had to be corrected at 2 in the morning.
Because a failure documented by an engineer becomes like a survival guide for the next generation. It's a literal blueprint of problem solving.
Exactly. And perhaps the most emotionally resonant archetype from the text is the classroom story.
Oh, I loved this part.
Teachers hold a profound, almost terrifying kind of power in society.
They really do.
They are very often the first adult outside of a child's immediate family to look at them and say, I see something in you that you don't even see in yourself.
Those moments alter the trajectory of a human life. Those stories are maps of human potential. They show society exactly where greatness hides, usually in the kids who are just written off as distracted or difficult.
Yeah. And finally, you have the witness story, which belongs to social changemakers and social workers.
Right.
They occupy a world that most people purposefully look away from. They sit with families in the middle of absolute catastrophic crisis. They navigate bureaucratic systems that are designed to help, but frequently fail the most vulnerable people.
Just figuring out how to maintain professional purpose when the daily reality is so relentlessly grim.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm looking at this list of archetypes, right? The doctor, the lawyer, the engineer, the teacher, the social worker. And I kind of have to push back on the underlying assumption here for a second.
Okay, push back.
We are arguing that the daily rhythm of their work is fascinating. But is the daily grind of someone else's job actually interesting to a general reader? Let's use a music analogy. To a veteran roadie, tuning a guitar for the 100th time on a Tuesday afternoon is incredibly boring, tedious labor.
Sure.
But to a superfan who somehow gets a backstage pass, watching that roadie prep the stage is absolute magic. Are we just falling for the backstage pass effect here? Is this just voyeurism into closed systems?
Well, the backstage pass effect is exactly what's happening, but that doesn't invalidate the fascination. It actually explains the power of it.
Okay.
The paradox here is that the more mundane a detail feels to the professional, the more deeply it anchors the outsider. You are dealing with a massive information asymmetry.
Oh, that makes sense.
The professional's boredom is the reader's intrigue.
So the mundane details are the hook.
Yes. The daily rhythm of a hospital ward round at 4 a.m., the palpable heavy energy in a conference room right before a massive corporate settlement is signed, the biting cold of a construction site visit in December.
And the professional's brain just filters those details out as just work.
Because they have to.
Hmm.
But those sensory details are the exact mechanisms that pull a reader into a world they would otherwise never, ever have access to.
Okay, so how does that professional's memory actually become a tool for the reader? We've established the backstage pass is inherently interesting, but what is the tangible impact when these stories are shared?
Well, the essay talks about this concept of quiet alchemy.
Quiet alchemy, I like that.
Yeah, it's the process of transforming a strictly private experience into a public legacy. And doing that requires drawing a very hard, distinct line between a legacy and a resume.
Right, because a book or a narrative is not a CV.
Not at all. It does not exist to catalog credentials, list your promotions, or prove competence. A CV builds a wall of authority. A narrative opens a door. The impact of this quiet alchemy is that when the reader walks through that door into the professional's world, the ultimate goal isn't actually to learn about the professional.
Wait, really?
The goal is for the reader to end up seeing themselves.
Oh, wow. Which fundamentally changes the value proposition of writing.
Completely.
Like when someone picks up a retired doctor's memoir, they aren't reading it to memorize medical history. They're looking for permission to view their own personal, maybe entirely unrelated struggles through a wiser, more experienced lens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When a young, terrified engineer reads an essay by a seasoned veteran detailing their most catastrophic professional failure
Yeah.
and how they survived the fallout, that young engineer gains something that no university textbook can ever provide.
Psychological confidence.
Yes, the confidence to keep going when they inevitably make their own mistakes. The older professional's hard-earned, painful wisdom becomes the younger professional's shortcut.
The legacy becomes the foundation. You know, there's a deeply profound thought around this in the text. It says, if you have ever had the fleeting thought, I really should write this down someday. That impulse is not vanity. It is instinct.
Yes, instinct.
But people constantly suppress that urge. Why do we so often mistake this vital, necessary instinct to share knowledge for sheer ego? Like, why is a professional so embarrassed to admit that their localized experience actually matters?
I think we have a societal conditioning that equates talking about oneself with boastfulness or self-importance.
Yeah, definitely.
Imposter syndrome plays a massive role here, too. A middle manager or a local school teacher thinks, well, I'm not a celebrity, I haven't cured a disease, who am I to write a book?
Right, they discount themselves.
But framing the sharing of knowledge as vanity is a fundamental misunderstanding of how human progress works.
It's an evolutionary bottleneck.
Exactly. The world doesn't just need more highly qualified professionals quietly hoarding facts in their heads. Society desperately relies on people who are willing to stand up, break their professional silence, and say, this is the specific thing I learned the hard way, and I am actively passing it down to you.
Wow.
The urge to document and share is an instinct for societal survival. Passing down knowledge is the literal mechanism of human progress.
Which brings up the most glaring practical barrier.
Oh, sure.
If sharing these stories is an evolutionary instinct and it's crucial for human progress, how does an exhausted trauma surgeon or an overworked public defender actually execute this?
That's the million-dollar question.
They aren't trained novelists. They don't have the time or the energy to learn the labyrinthine rules of the traditional publishing industry or spend years querying literary agents. The friction is just too high.
The friction is immense, which is why alternative models of publishing and legacy building are starting to emerge.
Right, the publishing house based in Mumbai, India.
Yes, they operate on a completely different philosophical baseline than, say, a traditional cutthroat New York publishing firm.
Their entire ethos is baked right into their name, which I love. TWAGAA is an acronym for Together We Are Great, Amazing, and Awesome.
It's so great.
It is. It's this surprisingly joyful, unpretentious moniker for a publishing house. It instantly lowers the temperature and removes the intimidating, elitist gatekeeping that usually surrounds the whole idea of becoming a published author.
Absolutely. They define themselves as a celebration of creativity, culture, and collaborations. They aren't looking for the next great literary genius. They're actively seeking out like-minded storytellers who possess vital professional knowledge but just need a structural nudge to get it onto the page.
Yeah.
Their stated mission is to help turn ordinary professionals into civilization builders.
Passing on the blueprints and the maps of human potential we were talking about earlier. But, okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The critical piece of this is their methodology.
The anthologies.
Yes. Because writing a 300-page solo memoir in total isolation is a paralyzing task. TWAGAA circumvents that paralysis by specializing in anthologies. They gather diverse voices from a single specific field and combine them into a shared journey.
It's a brilliant model. Let me just check my notes here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have published collections like Acorn to Oak, which pulls narratives from school alumni.
Oh, nice.
They have anthologies specifically for mariners, people who spend their entire lives out on the open ocean. Those are titled The Salt in Our Veins and The Sea Within.
Love those titles.
And they have another dedicated entirely to educators called A Class Apart. They invite professionals to submit single stories directly through their website or via email. They are actively lowering the drawbridge.
The anthology model is honestly a stroke of psychological genius. Let's think about the barrier to entry for a first-time writer. Writing a solo memoir is like standing on a dark stage, completely alone under a harsh spotlight, and being asked to sing a solo.
Terrifying.
Every single mistake, every flat note, every structural flaw in your story is completely exposed. It is paralyzing for someone whose professional training demands perfection. But contributing one single chapter to an anthology, that's like joining a choir.
It creates profound psychological safety.
Yes.
You are no longer carrying the crushing pressure of an entire narrative arc on your own shoulders.
Yeah.
You don't have to write the definitive, comprehensive history of the maritime industry.
Right. You just have to write about the one terrifying storm in the North Atlantic that changed how you view leadership.
Exactly. The choir analogy is so apt because an anthology blends the imperfections of individual voices into a cohesive harmony.
And it benefits the reader just as much as the writer. When you group these voices together, you aren't just getting one person's narrow perspective, you are creating a highly textured composite picture of an entire profession.
You get the captain's view, the deckhand's view, the engineer's view.
Yeah, it's the practical application of the together we are great, amazing, and awesome philosophy. You bring your one small piece of the puzzle, and the collective builds the civilization.
Because the heavy lifting, the living, the failing, the learning is already done. The story has already been written by the years a professional has survived in their field. Organizations utilizing the anthology model are simply providing the scaffolding to help move that lived experience out of a private memory and into the public domain.
So synthesizing all of this, the daily grind, the tasks that bore you to tears, the professional obligations that leave you exhausted at the end of the week, that is someone else's masterclass.
Totally.
It is someone else's backstage pass into a world they desperately want to understand. The expertise trap will try to convince you that your work is just a line on a blueprint or just another Tuesday at the office. But expertise without a narrative disappears the moment you retire.
And thankfully, the barrier to sharing that narrative is lower than ever, with collaborative models existing specifically to help translate raw experience into a civilization-building legacy.
Right.
A career provides an individual with expertise, but it also provides them with a story. Withholding that story out of a misplaced fear of vanity does a huge disservice to the people coming up behind them.
Which brings us to a direct challenge for you, the learner, listening right now. Think about your own job, your own industry. What is the mundane detail in your daily work that someone outside your field desperately needs to hear?
Yeah, what's your version of it?
What is your version of the quiet courtroom hallway or the terrifying miscalculation on the blueprint? The most effective way to break the expertise trap is to start incredibly small. Sit down and write just one single page about the exact moment your professional worldview changed forever. Just one page.
Because a documented narrative is not just a story. It is the foundation of a legacy.
And that leaves us with one final lingering thought to mull over today. If every seasoned professional, every trauma surgeon, structural engineer, veteran teacher, and public defender takes their untold stories, their private doubts, and their hardest learned lessons to the grave with them, how much human progress are we collectively losing?
Wow.
How many times are we forcing the next generation to make the exact same agonizing mistakes all over again, simply because the manual wasn't passed down? Think about the invisible human drama holding you up the next time you drive across a suspension bridge. Until next time, keep digging deeper.
Hope you enjoyed the podcast and would be keen to share your stories with us. Subscribe to our newsletter online at our website to stay abreast of the upcoming collaborations for anthologies. Visit twagaa.com/subscribe. Thank you for listening.